Welcome to From the Ground Up podcast. Few things to get out of the way before we get started. As always, Theportcitypythons.com. We have some animals available. We do have now, dare I say it? Oh no, we have ball pythons now. So if you guys don't know, I kind of absorbed my dad's ball pythons that he produced and stuff like that because he doesn't want to sell them or use the internet. So if you guys like ball pythons, whether adult, we have adult females even and males and a bunch of cool babies that he produced, then hit us up. Or of course, we always have corn snakes available.
Yes, limited time ball pythons.
Hopefully limited time.
This will
right?
not be a continued thing in our future.
As much as I love those ultramel ball pythons. I just don't want to worry about feeding them every week. And to me, just a lot more upkeep than a corn snake. But for all you guys who are into that stuff, I'm sure you'd enjoy it. And there are, of course, t-shirts available also online on portcitypythons.com. And we have the Amazon codes down below. The chat is saying boo ball pythons. And if you click the Amazon links below, all you do is shop normally as you would on Amazon. And the podcast gets a little kickback from that. What else is there?
I
feel like we're missing something.
No?
But I don't think we are. So, guys, today's guest is Jason Nelson from MV Reptiles. So, Jason, if you could just give us a short intro on who you are, where you're from, and what you work with.
Yeah, like you said, Jason, my name is Jason Nelson. I've been born and raised in Utah. So I work with mostly gophers and bull snakes and pines, Pitchophis family, and I'll dabble in some corns and some kings and milks.
So what got you interested in Pitchophis? I mean, that's not something that everyone is interested in, to be honest.
Yeah, a friend of mine had some Sonoran albino Sonoran Gophers for sale, and it was in the late 90s, I guess it was. And I mean, I've caught gopher snakes when I was a kid and stuff like that, and I always liked them. But then I got into breeding snakes and raising, all that. And I just love how strong the Pitchophis family are. They're just strong animals, and they always eat. They're just simple, easy animals to take care of, and they're beautiful. So
yeah, and I know back in the day, as far as when you still had like Applegate animals and Trumbauer animals and all that stuff, it seems like that has kind of died down. At least the old school colubrid guys got out of it, and it seems like you are now like the premier guy working with some of those gopher projects.
Yeah, there's still a lot of great old timers out there that I look up to, and yeah, kind of learn from them.
So what are your favorite gopher and bull snake projects that you have going on this year?
This year, I always have a chance to produce. I kind of line it up for the last 10 years at least. I always have a chance to produce a first time morph. I'm always looking to produce the next thing. And Great Basin Gopher Snakes right now there's a lot to be done. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I love them all, but.
Now, I'm not that familiar with how the genus works and stuff like that. Is the Great Basins, are those separate subspecies than the San Diegos, or is that just locality?
It's separate species. There's San Diegos, the Nectins, the Sonoran Gophers, Great Basin Gophers, and then there's a bunch of smaller ones, some islands, island gopher snakes and some Baja Gophers, vertebralis and bimaris, and a few. And there's Mexican species too, but the big ones in the States are San Diego's, Pacifics, Sonorans, and Great Basins as far as gopher snakes.
Now, are you very particular as far as keeping all of those separate?
Yeah, I am anti-hybrid. I don't want to go down that road.
So, but there are morphs kind of in all the different species and subspecies to play with.
Yeah, every subspecies has their own morphs and have a lot more than others. Like San Diego's, they have 4 lines of albinos.
And now, out of those 4 lines, they don't interact with each other?
A couple of them do. A couple of them will work together, which is even there's the Bechtel albino and the Dyer albino, and they kind of go hand in hand. They kind of, you'll get a little, it's pretty common to get both albinos in out of a pair. One's a T negative, one's a T positive, so they're easy to distinguish from each other that way.
Mm-hmm. And now, what happens when you put all those together, all the different albinos?
It kind of creates a mess, but it can create a mess. It has, but what I've found and a lot of people don't understand it, but it's that when you mix 2 of those albinos, they'll look the same as hatchling. They'll look like a normal T negative albino, but if it's got the T positive in it, after about a year, the blotching will start turning green, and that doesn't happen in either the when they're by themselves. It's when they're mixed, you'll get that green color come through.
And now, is that something you're trying to avoid?
Not necessarily, but it kind of creates a little bit of a problem distinguishing, especially because you can't tell as babies. It's when they get bigger, and it's kind of been that's kind of been going before I even got into it a little bit, but just from the work I've done, that's what I've noticed is, yeah, you get the green comes out later. So it was kind of an accident, but it happened.
Mm-hmm. Now, what other things are you working with as far as San Diego's goes? So obviously those are all the albinos that are in those. And then what other kind of projects and morphs are involved? So
probably the hot new color morph in San Diego is, I kind of named it after myself, my Envy Reptiles. I named it after Envy Snow, and so it's a T positive albino with an anery. So you get the white and purple, but with normal eyes. So that's kind of cool.
And now I was looking, I don't know if it was you who made that kind of collage of all the different gopher lines and stuff like that, but I saw there was a zombie something or another, and I thought that was just crazy. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. I didn't name that, but that is that's what I'm talking about. That comes from the Envy Snows. It's there's a couple variations of colors in the snows, and some of those might be like a double albino going on too, that which causes some of those weird color phases.
Now, are you interested in outcrossing that and kind of finding out exactly what the ingredients are? Or you're like, that just looks cool, let's stick with that, and we'll get a different mix when I breed everything together?
Well, I've kind of refined it this year, and it was the first time it's came out. They have what they call a super hypo from Europe. It was line bred that way. From my understanding is and from my experience, the dire albino, the clumper albino, and the super hypo, either they're all the same thing or they're compatible. And so the super hypo has the super dark purple blotches, where the dyers have a lighter lavender color. And so what I try to do is get that dark color back in it, so you get more contrast and colors, better colors that way. So, and this year I had a couple pop out, and the purple is so purple it's almost black on a white snake, or sometimes they're yellow, but that was the idea, get a high contrast with lots of colors.
Wow. So it seems like you have a lot of the issues that we have in corn snakes as well. There's things that have been line bred for so long that have a certain look to them, even though it's an A-male, it's a candy cane, it's a high red, this or that. And then we also have like these little kind of enhancer genes. I don't know if you're familiar with like the red coats and the red factors and stuff like that. Like, do you think there could be any little dominant traits that kind of slip in there, kind of like corn snakes, that are tweaking those, or is it just line bred polygenic stuff?
It seems to be more line bred stuff, but yeah, there's still, and there'll still be new projects to come in the San Diego's too, which is it's always fun to look forward to.
And now, for people who don't know, I guess, much about the genus and how to care for the snakes, about what's the difference between the different gophers in size and look between San Diego's and, say, Great Basins?
Yeah, they all vary a little bit. Sonoran Gophers are they look very similar to bull snakes, and they're the biggest gopher snake in the States. 6-footer, yeah, I've heard of 6-footers. I've had a couple. More like 5 foot's pretty average. They're pretty bulky. And then you'll move to if you move to a San Diego, most of my breeders are around 4 foot, and they're pretty heavy bodied. But then you get a Great Basin, and they're about 4 foot too, but they're a slender snake. They are more built like a corn snake in size, is what I kind of compare them to. And the Pacifics are similar to San Diego's in size.
And now for adults, are most people keeping them in like 3-foot cages, or are you keeping them in like CB70s or 28 quart tubs?
I think, I keep a lot of my gopher snakes in 28s, but I tend to keep my San Diegos and Great Basins, Pacifics in 28s, unless I have some bigger ones. And then my Sonorans I'll keep in 70s, my bull snakes in 70s, my pines in 70s. So, yeah.
So I saw that you had a few kind of getting into more stuff that, like, we have Louisiana pines, but I saw that you had a clutch of black pines. So I'd like to get a little bit into that. And then also, I mean, in Utah, who do you have to sell to at that point, since you can't ship them, across state lines?
You can ship them across state lines. You have to apply for a permit, which is about it's $100. But I think it's once you have that permit, I think you can get as many animals as you need or want with that. And it's a slow process. I had a guy do it last year, and it took him a few months to get that permit. But as far as, Utah is, I have very few customers in Utah because pits aren't big here. It's not a big hot commodity here. I have there's probably 5 or 6 people into them. So it is a tough sell in Utah without a permit, even so.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to gauge that from you as someone who finally my Louisiana pines got the size, and I'm afraid that if I breed them, I'm
You're
not going
not
to be able to sell them.
them.
And another main person who breeds pines is in the same state, so it's like, damn, now we just have way too much supply between the two of us. So I was just wondering about the permit process and stuff like that.
Yeah, it I haven't actually had to get the permit because I had them before. Before they went on the endangered list, so I haven't had to actually apply for a permit. But yeah, I just think it's a slow process on their end, not so much of anything else. I just think it just takes them a while, and I don't know if it's because if they're unfamiliar with the process, or I don't know exactly why that is. But
Who knows if they even want us going through the process that readily.
They probably, yeah, they don't want to make it easy.
yeah, that's probably why they make it hard.
Now, have you drawn back production of things like black pines because of that reason?
Yeah, I have. Last year I produced like 30 of them. This year I got like 6, and I was happy with that.
So are you just going to keep, adults, just going to keep them for now and just breed, maybe once every 3 years or something and kind of rotate one clutch or something like that?
Yeah, that's kind of the game plan. It's just not a high priority, and we'll just they're awesome snakes, and I definitely want to keep them in my collection because they're such cool animals. But I am gonna slow down on producing those because it's a hard thing.
Yeah.
Do you think the permit process is something that will ever change, or you think it's kind of forever?
I don't see it changing. So I don't I don't know if it will change anytime soon.
See, I always thought it would benefit conservation more so to maybe ban the native states, but allow interstate trade of proven captive born
Ones
and
that are-
bred. So say they're like, okay, Jason is a certified breeder of black pine snakes, so allow him to
send
sell
them.
and trade across the state.
Because he's not getting them from
the wild.
Right.
Because that's ultimately what they want to stop.
Right, is conserve the ones that are in the wild.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea.
I need like degrees or being fish and wildlife or something. But who's gonna listen to us?
Right. Yeah, I like the idea. It makes sense, and it's not like you can go down there and just collect. I mean, if you were to see one in the wild, it'd be a pretty big deal because they're not easy to find from what I hear. I've never tried, but
yeah, for snakes living in a hole most of the time, you'd think you're not gonna pick up like 20 of them at a time.
yeah, black pines, Louisiana pines, you're probably going to get shot down a lot. I'm sure it's pretty hard to find one.
Mm-hmm. Now, I guess we can move on to bull snakes. So, I guess the larger of the snakes. But I mean,
bigger.
I saw that you have a few things like white-sideds and obviously albinos and stuff going on. So, what are some of your clutches that you've produced this year?
I produced a lot this year. I don't even make a price list until they hatch because I use multi-hats, morphs and this and that, and I can't really predict exactly what I'm going to produce. I know I'll get a bunch of white sides and I'll get a bunch of albinos, but then I get a mix of every. I'll much get most morphs every year, but it's like some of them it's just one or two. So, and there's so many. You got 2 bloodlines of hypos, you got 2 bloodlines of albinos, you got 2 bloodlines of xanthics, and they're not compatible, all these, but as far as genetics, there's the five main color morphs and pattern morphs. So I mean, there's five hets out there. I mean, I have snakes that are het or visual, and then het for this. So there's, you want a pair of five hets can produce 32 color morph possibilities, but the problem is a lot of them will look the same, and without knowing the background on them, then it gets to be a little bit of a mess that way.
And what are those five bases?
So you got white-sided, you got albinos, xanthics, I said white-sides, hypos, and patternless. And so then you could make it more confusing by adding double xanthics, and I guess, but.
And then you have things like your Stillwater Reds or your I need you to pronounce the Kankakee.
Yeah,
I'm doing it wrong.
I was reading that earlier. I'm like, I have no idea how to say that word.
Well, I thought you did great because that's how I said it.
Perfect. So, and then are you just like you said with the Gophers, you're trying to keep that separate? Would you keep something like a Stillwater or a Kankakee? I don't want to say that too much to mess it up, but would you keep those separate? And do you work with those, or you just work with the morphs?
I like, I like locality stuff too, and nothing's cooler than a locality color morph in my mind. But yeah, I want to make new stuff, so I'm always gonna keep combining color morphs, and there's still some that haven't been done or rarely done. So,
are localities in bull snakes as what's the word I'm trying to think of? Valuable isn't the word, but like in gray bands, like locality is, I can't talk. Locality is such a big thing. Like, that 1 mile difference or that one location is so big. Is it that important in bull snakes? You're just kind of like, oh, this one is from here and it looks cool.
It is important. It's not as crazy as the gray bands because they vary so much from one range to the next. But I know in Indiana, they have a lot of black in them. That's where the Kankakees are. I think it's Illinois. And then they have the black ones and the various few localities over there. And it's kind of key to keep them pretty pinpointed with those. Obviously there's Kingville's Reds that are popular, Stillwater hypos popular. So
yeah, I think what's crazy is just how big the range of the bull snake is. So it's like, yeah, you can have an animal obviously from the Midwest or something like that, or an animal from basically West Texas. I remember looking at that. I think it was Bill Love's book, and them just getting like 8-foot giant bull snakes out in Texas. Now, I didn't get the luxury of finding any of those while we lived in Texas, but
I mean, find nearly anything in Texas.
That's true, mostly copperheads. But are you looking for anything like that as far as I know back in the day, I guess maybe those were northern pines, but like things like Jersey Giants, and is there anything else that's kind of under the radar that you're interested in?
Not like that way. Not as far as localities and stuff. There was the 277s that were, I think, started by Shannon Brown. I think the female was over 9 foot and the male was close to 9 foot, and they called them monster bulls. And I don't know if I don't know if anything ever came of that to where they were proven genetically to be monsters. I had some at one point, but I never got them to adulthood. So, yeah, it would be neat. It would be kind of cool to know if you could breed giants though.
And that's 277, just like the Alternas.
Yep, West Texas. Yeah.
So basically, someone was looking for gray bands and they're like, "Oh,
They
here's
came
a
upon
giant
this
bull
huge-
snake, so I'll take it."
Yeah, here's this bull snake taking up the whole road. Yeah, I guess they were pretty pissy animals too. They were pretty aggressive. They just sit there and strike and hiss, and they're from what I understood, the female, you had to keep her in a dark cage because she would just sit there and smack her face into the cage trying to bite you.
So, needless to say, I guess that was some type of vitality issue to where they weren't produced readily and no one really kept up that line.
I don't. I think there's a few people that still have them, but I don't know. I've never seen like a lot on them lately. Just it's kind of like they kind of disappeared. But I know I did hear recently someone had some of that bloodline still. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting, especially in things like pits, and I learned that through dealing with the Louisiana pines and stuff like that. There's like a few people on the internet, like you and Jay Jacoby are just a few pit people that I know of on the internet. But there's also like a lot of people who are very, very underground, old school, don't do anything on Facebook or anything on the internet. So I was wondering, how do you network with those people? Is it just the amount of time you somehow a friend of a friend type of thing?
yeah, pretty much. It's Facebook's crazy how it's just blown up, and it's just there's more people are getting on there, old timers even, but there is still those people that don't want anything to do with it, and they're kind of, I get it, you don't want to be on that or social media, but you're going to be missing out on a lot of cool stuff that's going on, because look how far this hobby's gone. And if you're not on Facebook right now, geez, you're missing out on a lot of cool stuff.
And we're selfish and we want to talk to them.
Yeah, it's mostly because we want to see
we're
what people
missing
are
out.
working with.
Like, I love hearing people who've been working with these snakes for, like 30 plus years, and just all the different ways, like how they handle their business or everything has changed. Like, that's some of the most interesting stuff for me to hear. But we can't even find these people because they're not anywhere on the internet.
Yeah, I know Craig Trumpauer, he's been on there recently, and he actually gave me a phone call because he was interested in something he's seen on Facebook, and it was really neat to talk to a guy that's been in the hobby that long and seen everything come and go, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
And a great mustache, which is the most important part.
Yeah.
And we need to try to get him on the show, but I need to read his books before I do it so that we can be informed on everything. But yeah, he's someone who has like just his stories of him herping throughout his lifetime.
You haven't read his books. That's all the kind of stuff you love.
I know. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Is it one of those books that like are old and cost a lot of money?
It's no, it's eco publishing, just like Bill Love's book or pretty much all the books that we have. So yeah, they're readily available. But I mean, that's someone who I would love to have on the show and love to get to use. It's hard when you do like video show and stuff like that. Not everyone's down to do something like this. Yeah. So
you can't say so and then take a sip of your beer.
Sorry.
That doesn't work.
So do you do field herping yourself?
Yeah, I do. I don't do a lot in the States anymore. I love field herping. I love to go photograph, and I go with a couple friends and a group of friends, and yeah, in 2 weeks I'm going to Baja, Cabo, Southern Baja, do some herping. So that's what I love. That's one of my favorite places too. But I'm all about Mexico herping, and I love America too. It's just, you go to Arizona and it's just, we're Southern California, and you almost got to get in line to drive up the canyon because there's so many people doing it now, and that turns me off a little bit. But it's still fun. You can still get out there.
And I wouldn't want to be out with a bunch of people just because there's probably a lot of stupid people who don't know what they're doing. And that would be the hardest part, is just like having to bite your tongue while you're seeing all these other people out there probably handling stuff wrong or anything.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen some in southern Arizona. I've seen some young guys handling some rattlesnakes and stuff, and it was like, yeah.
Did you say something?
I didn't. I didn't say anything like to that. I don't want to be a jerk or anything, but I may give them some advice or something like that. But
now, what's your favorite place? So is Mexico your favorite place to herp, or do you have a very, not specific location, but a particular area that you like more than others?
Well, like I said, I've been to Baja once, and I just love it there. It's just, some unique reptiles there, and plus the food's great. But
Now, is that a very like Americanized part of Mexico?
Baja's a little bit, it's not as sketchy as mainland Mexico for sure. Every time I've gone there, I felt totally safe, and yeah.
And there's still like a lot of terrain to find snakes.
Oh yeah, and you're the only ones out there looking, so that's what I like about it. You don't have to compete to go.
And are there like special considerations when going there, as far as, do you need any type of permitting or anything to handle the reptiles?
Not that I'm aware of. We strictly photograph, and we don't collect anything. We just love to see the reptiles or any wildlife, in that matter of that fact. But yeah, we seen a family of ring-tailed cats, and we caught them in a canyon, and they couldn't get really around us, so they were cornered up against the cliff wall, and it was kind of fun to watch them for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what is your ideal animal to find in that area?
I've found a vertebralis, which is the Cape gopher. I'd like to find a bimaris, which is the northern gopher snake in the Baja, but nobody in our group has ever found an adult live vertebralis. So yeah, that would be probably my highlight of my trip.
And do those interbreed in that area?
I don't think their range overlaps. So
is there mountains or anything separating them?
I know that one's northern and one's southern, so
okay.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
Now, I mean, something I would be interested in is the Baja Rat Snakes. So have you seen anything down there?
Yeah, we found one night. We found 2 adults pretty quickly, and we found that was.
Is that like a readily available snake down there?
You'll find them, but you're gonna have to put in a little bit of time. I think we found 4 or so last time in a week. But yeah, a big old adult is fun to find. The Mexican rosies, the trivs, those are always fun. The chocolate and cream rosy boas, the stripes, so those are always fun. Yeah, and I'm really into amphibians and lizards and stuff too, so it's just not snakes.
Now, when you find something out there, are you like, if you don't already have it, is it one of those things where you find it and then you're like, oh, I definitely want to keep that now? Or is it one of the, for me, sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I don't want to keep those now because I see how awesome it is in the wild and like maybe you should chill there. But some I'm like, I want to bring it home too.
Yeah, I mean, when you're holding a baby little red-tailed boa or something, I mean, it's cool. I mean, they're common. You could buy them. It's just, it would be way easier to just buy one and probably cleaner and prettier. But I don't know. There's something about a boa. Even the rosy boas, they're cool to handle. And there's a lot of venomous stuff. I very rarely will handle anything venomous, but if we have to wrangle something for a picture, we'll do it. But we're pretty respectful.
Now, when you're in Baja and stuff like that, are you typically going night cruising, and what time of year do you try to go?
Yeah, night cruising is you'll find more at night. It's hot there. It's pretty dang hot. So in the daytime it can be tough, but there's always lizards and stuff to find in the day.
And now, is that one of those places kind of like a lot of Mexico or West Texas where like your number one thing you're gonna find is rattlesnake species?
Yeah, you'll find your share. You'll find quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We did go a couple of years ago. We had to get a permit to do this, but we went and camped out on Catalina Island where they have the rattlesnakes. And so we went out there to target those. And yeah, they're pretty easy to find and they're all over, but you dang, be careful. They're not your normal rattlesnakes. They'll climb up in bushes and they're fast and they don't hesitate to bite. And they're nippy.
On a little island like that, do they have any known predators, or do they, like, I can imagine that they don't have much fear of or they have a lot of fear of you, but maybe not much fear obviously of biting.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why they developed the way they did, because they don't have a lot of natural predators. They don't have to. Maybe that's why they lost their rattles, because they don't need to do warning, because there's not a lot of predators. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just a guess.
Now, on trips like this, do you like go in groups and someone arranges it for you, or do you arrange things like permits to go to these places?
My friend is really good at it, and so he'll put it together, and he knows exactly what he's doing, and so I just kind of he puts it together, and we go and have a good time.
Now, it seems like everyone's destinations are like Costa Rica or Indo to the Komodo or to Komodo Island or something like that. So have you gone out to those places? Have you gone to Central America? Have you gone to Indonesia or anywhere out there?
In January I went to Peru and went to the Amazon, and yeah, that was pretty my biggest. That was a bucket list trip. Going in the Amazon, and yeah, it was pretty cool. It's as many animals. I think we found 50 species. The group found 50 species of reptiles and 50 species of amphibians. But it's pretty dang hard, even in the jungle. I mean, with that abundant types of species and stuff, it was still, you had to work your butt off to. I think I only found one snake on my own. So
now I'm
that's
super
so depressing. I would get. I mean, I don't know how you want to keep going.
probably like
there.
1 million
Like,
mosquitoes to every snake you find.
it's a little frustrating. It can be frustrating. I started targeting tree frogs because I love tree frogs, and so I just started doing that, and I was really successful at that, and that was fun for me. So
Now,
Go
were
find
you?
something. Oh, sorry. We could.
I'm really nosy on all snake stuff going on. So, were you with a group that went to like I believe it's called the Madre de Dios River or whatever it is, that part of the Peruvian Amazon?
Yeah.
So, did you find any anacondas?
I wasn't with them. So we had two parties split up, and the other party that they went out on the river. They had the most amazing story about an anaconda. It was cool. The stories, they were just cruising, and they had an anaconda swimming on the surface, and it it was heading for the what they call the cabbage, that floating vegetation, and it got in there, and they're like, well, I guess we're screwed. We're not going to find it. And one guy pulled back some stuff, and they found it, and they caught it. It was amazing. So
I was gonna say, do you bring that into the boat or do you just let it be?
I think they brought it back, and we GPS locations so we can put stuff right back. But you bring it back, photograph it, so everybody can see it and they experience it. So
Now,
yeah.
is that part of a like research facility?
They may do research there. I mean, this was strictly for hobbyists. I mean, and a lot of these guys, I'm not that hardcore into it. I just love to get out and be out there, but I'm not going to take field notes. I'm not that guy.
Mhm. Now, what was your favorite thing seeing there, whether it be a snake or amphibian?
So my favorite thing was if I say this right, the Ateleptus toad. I may have said that wrong.
Never heard of it, so it's right to me.
So they're little toads, but they're only like an inch and a half, and they look very much like a dart frog. They're really colorful, and there's one little spot where you can find them. And I went out on my own that day, and it's a couple-mile hike to get there. And I found one, and it was raining, and I just videotaped it, and it was green and black on the top, but under its legs it's red, and it would start doing some behaviors where it would start kicking its legs, showing me its red, flashing its red colors at me, and it was basically telling me it was saying stay away, I'm poisonous, even though they're not poisonous, but they mimic a dart frog, I think. But yeah, it was pretty cool to watch the behavior of that. I got some pretty cool footage on that. And the first time he was doing it, he looked like he was waving at me. He'd go like this, and then show me the red palm. I'm like, what the heck? And then when it turned the other direction, it would do the back legs at me. So that's when I started. Oh, it's trying to warn me. So it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is there anything like that you bring back with you from there? Like, why do you always, besides the obvious, you want to see animals, but why do you challenge yourself kind of to go to these far out places?
I guess I'm a little. I guess I'm a little bit bored of North America, even though there's a lot I haven't done, and there's a lot I still want to do. But it's just the most extreme, more exotic, I guess.
And I mean, is that a totally different experience than herping Mexico or, road cruising through Arizona or something like that?
Yeah, and Arizona is cool too, but yeah, it's different for sure.
So I guess this is a question I was going to ask you, but someone asked as well. Did you see any corrales or any tree boas, as well as things like Peruvian rainbow boas and things like that?
Yep, we seen I think 5 or 6 rainbow boas.
Wow.
One was way up in the canopy. I don't know how they seen it up there. And we did eye shine for tree boas. Only the year before they found a green tree boa, which was the first one they found there. That's for very few have been found there, only a couple. But the little tree boas were pretty common, and you just eye shine them. You just look for eye shines up in trees.
Yeah, I don't think people know that that's one of the only species, at least that I know of, or genus Corallus at least, or the Corallus hortolanus, that has an eye shine if you shine them in the trees with flashlights.
Really?
That's how I read it in a book. That's why when we lost the tree boa, that's why I turned out the lights and started putting the flashlight everywhere. Didn't find them that way, but I figured I'd try.
Yeah, that's cool.
I didn't know that.
7 in the night.
So they're not really hidden. They're just kind of easy.
Well, they just sit out there on the branches, and I think they're waiting for a bat to fly by, or so they're on the front, on the outsides of trees, not deep inside the trees, so they can catch bats and birds and whatever flies by. Yeah, we just floated the river, just went down the river and shined trees. So
yeah, I feel like that is I barely want to go anywhere near my one that I have in captivity. So I can imagine that's a fun thing to photograph in the wild.
Yeah, they'll put a biting on you.
I mean, at least you know that it will hang out for a second, so you can probably take a good picture and then kind of watch your face.
Yeah, yep, you got to be careful.
Do they come in different, when you see them in the wild, do they come in different color phases, or are most of them kind of that drab brown coloration?
Oh, they came in there was 7. I think we had 7 different color phases, variances. So yeah, they were quite colorful, different. And the little ones are always more colorful, it seems like. But yeah, they were.
Is there anything that you didn't expect to see that you saw, or something that you didn't expect to like in the wild comparison to something that you may have known existed before, like something that has a special place now that you found it in the wild?
There's definitely stuff I wanted to see that I didn't see, but we did. I guess there was stuff that I wasn't expecting to, and but there's so much down there, you just kind of forget about some of the stuff. And someone found a Bushmaster, which was great. That was one of the high. That was pretty high on the list to see rainbow boas, and we didn't see any red tails, but yeah, we've seen most of the stuff we wanted to.
Now, are you guys, was everyone just going there to photograph? And I don't know if I saw Dave Kaufman's video on the Peruvian Amazon. Were you actually with him on that trip? Because I know he saw rainbow boas and the Bushmaster and everything.
He went the year before I did, but it was the same place where he went. Yeah,
yeah, we should go.
Oh yeah, cool.
Well, maybe not you.
Yeah, no, I know none of this sounds fun for me. I would probably hate every second of it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Unless you get me like a bee suit, a beekeeper's outfit,
to keep every single bug out ever.
Yes.
I was worried about the bugs the most, and I mean, I did get eaten up here and there, but for the most part, it was mostly just in the daytime, not being prepared, walking through the grass at the campgrounds or at the village or whatever you want to call it. But I would bundle up pretty good, even though it's hot and muggy. I'd just wear a long sleeve dry fit shirt and keep something on your neck. And but yeah, there's the insect life is crazy, and the spiders would probably freak you out more than anything.
Yep, I'm out. I get 10 bug bites going outside in our backyard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So there's no way I'm going to these huge forests. I mean, I'll just be covered.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of. It seemed like there was just in that little area we were at, we seen 6 different species of walking sticks, and it's just that's a lot. I mean,
I didn't even know that.
I can deal with that. Those are kind of cool.
They were way cool. but you'll see communal webs of spiders that are big as your living room or something, and there's tons of spiders in them, not just one or two, tons of them. It's crazy.
It's a little spider village.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for that great, amazing experience filled with spiders, what kind of cost are you looking at for a trip like that?
So I think I was 1,800, and that's food, everything, and then you got your plane ticket on that. So
Yeah.
And is there a reasonable airport to go into like Lima, Peru, or where do you have to go to get in there?
I remember I had 4 layovers,
Oh, Jesus.
or at least 3. I think I had 3, and then it was 4 different planes. So yeah.
Damn. And is the last one like a single engine landing on the water or something?
No, it was a decent sized plane, but yeah, I don't remember the exact cities. I remember we flew out of LA, I think it was, to then to Panama, and then to Peru, and then you take another flight in Peru to the other side. So
It's not the worst. I mean, it makes
You're
sense.
going to the Amazon, so that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, it was a long trip. It was, I think, my way home was 26 hours or something with all, and it was through the night, and I don't sleep sitting up, so it was like, yeah, just be prepared to stay up for 24 hours. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, how
26
long?
hours? It
Yeah, 'cause
feels
then you're like-
shorter than, I don't know, it doesn't feel that far away for some reason.
Until you're dealing with layovers.
Just thinking where it is.
Now, how long were you actually there in Peru?
2 weeks. I think,
Oh, damn. So $1,800 is nothing.
and they feed you, well. So, and if you guys ever want that contact information, I totally can save that. But
People are like very interested in the chat. They're like asking, like, who did you go through? Like, they're very into this excursion.
So if you can get a commission, there's some willing people.
So my friend Matt Smith and Mike Pingleton are the guides for that trip, and they're friends of mine, and they put it together. They do a trip every year down there, and they're real super knowledgeable people about all the herbs and wildlife. And yeah, they're always looking for people to go down there, and they got it. It's a sweet setup, and you sleep in your own little hut, and you got mosquito nets around it, and then you got mosquito lined netting around your bed itself. So you don't get eaten up, in the night. You're pretty well protected.
Well, that's good.
Sounds like a good honeymoon.
Get out of here. Never gonna happen in a million years.
All right, it is. There it is.
Okay, so total switching gears. I want to get back to kind of what he keeps.
Okay.
And we've referenced the chat a lot, but someone in the chat asked, what kind of caging do you use?
We already kind of went over
I missed
that.
that. Okay.
But although he does have a lot of pits and stuff like that, I saw that you also have gray bands, which is something that we like to talk about a lot, but we don't keep. So could you explain a little bit of how you got into gray bands and what you do as far as gray bands go?
Gray bands are actually what got me. I mean, I was into snakes as a kid. Always was. But then when I wanted to get back into it. And I want to say this was mid-90s, early 90s. That was the first snake I ever bought was a gray banded. In about, I want to say 94 or so. Maybe 93. But yeah, they're one of those snakes you look at and they're one of the neatest snakes. I don't know. I always liked color. So I like pythons and boas too. I've kept a couple, but But I'm really into colors, and gray bands are. And then you start getting all the localities and the pattern morphs, and yeah. So I think I'm working with 5 localities right now.
Oh, what's the base on the Christmas one?
Christmas Mountains.
Christmas Mountains.
I got Christmas Mountains, 277s, River Roads, Junos. And then I have some long blotched ones and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I have seen those because they're kind of funky pattern gray bands. It looks like are those like 2 funky animals that come out with funky babies, or how does that work?
So my friend Matt Smith with High Mountain Reptiles, which I don't think is anymore, but he had a generic female Blair's that had a really long neck blotch. And so he just line bred it. And next thing you know, after a few generations, he's getting animals with 2/3 of their body. The neck blotch goes 2/3 of all, 2/3 of the body. And so he just I didn't create it. I got in on it early. And so I don't think Matt's into it anymore. So yeah.
So now you're carrying the torch on that one.
Yeah, and they've been around for a while. They're just not super common. People love them. It's just there's not a lot out there still. So,
do you feel like you could get a striped gray band?
I know someone back in the day had striped, and some people used to consider these striped, but this is a different. The ones I'm working with are non-related to that bloodline. So there was striped ones. I don't know. I haven't seen them for a long time, so I don't know.
Yeah. Do you have any interest in things like the leucistics or I believe they're ghosts? Yeah, basically the morphs. I had a
anery and a ghost at one time. They never did anything for me. But my interest in that would be, I want to make an anery or a ghost long blotched. I kind of want to try to do that this year coming up if I can find someone who wants to go in on that project, because I don't have aneries or ghosts right now. So I do have interest in that regard.
Yeah, I think first of all, a Blair's phase gray band kink snake, or even the wacky like black gap stuff, is just as cool, if not a lot cooler, than any morph that could ever exist.
Yeah.
And I also love the like het leucistics, which are like that half hypo type of look to them. I think even if you got that in something like that long blotched snake, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I just keep envisioning, and that's kind of how I do. I mean, but a long blotched anery, could you imagine a gray snake with a white blotch going 2/3 down the body? That would be something different.
Absolutely. Now, those blots, did those originate from any locality?
Not that I'm aware of. It just kind of came from a non-locality animal that had unusual large blotching, and he just kind of ran with it that way.
And now, do you see all your babies exhibit blotching like that, or do you have a range of them, and do you have normal animals coming out of it?
But I want to ask also about him and the friend who kind of started with the neck blotching. Both those, like, was it consistently like more and more? Or is it kind of half-half? Yeah.
Yeah, so it is kind of a half-half. Like, I'll get you get a variety. You'll get even some normal looking ones will pop out of there. And then you'll get some mid ranges, and then you'll get 1 or 2 extreme blotching. I bred a normal Blair's female to a long blotched male which isn't, he's not even expressing a lot of long blotching, but he's obviously got the genetics. But yeah, some of the babies came out with double-sized neck blotching already. It's not like a recessive trait. It's a line bred trait. It's not like two hets. There's not hets in long blotches. They're either from that bloodline or they're not, I guess. So
I think a ball python breeder would just call it incomplete dominant and tag a $2,000 price tag on it.
yeah, I don't have those crazy terminology, those weird. I try to keep it simplified, and it still can be confusing, but in certain things. But I try to make morph names pretty easy. I don't want to get into the mocha latte, blah blah blah, or whatever. I just want to call it what it is, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I like descriptive, long blotch. Like I like that. Things like that. It's what it is.
I didn't make up that name, and I don't love the name, but I didn't start the project, so I'm in honor of the guy that did. You keep the name of stuff like that, and you see it I see it in bull snakes a lot. Trumbauer hypos are very, very versatile in color and appearance, and this one's got more purple, so I'm gonna call this a raspberry or something. And it's just like, where did these names come from? So I just want to keep it simplified, and I try to. I can't. What other people do, I have no control over that. So as far as my part, I try to make it pretty basic.
I think at this point, there's some type of, at least for people who like the history of our hobby and stuff like that, like there's something herp nerd romantic about like keeping the original people's name, like the people like an Applegate albino or your Trumbauer animals. Like I think there's something to keeping that name on it, because like those are the people who kind of started it for all of us.
Yeah, and I don't want to discredit a person that's done all that time and work and effort, and I don't think anybody else should either. But there is a mystique to that name, like Applegate or Trumbauer. Yeah, you want to kind of keep that.
But see, then for new people, I'm like, what the heck is Applegate? That means nothing to me.
Who cares? Just call it like everyone else. If you told me it was a long blotched whatever, I'm like, okay, I can picture that. I'm obviously I can Google Applegate immediately, but I don't know. I understand people who created or whatever deserve their credit, but I just wish everyone would make a name that is descriptive. Well, yeah, but you want to know like where that animal derives from originally. I think it's interesting to be able to keep that. But I mean, how often are those things pure in your opinion?
I think most people are pretty honest in their. I mean, I think it's okay to question people when a new morph comes out, but you gotta really honor if someone came up with this morph. You don't want to just say, discredit and say, nope, I don't believe that could happen. I don't believe it came out of this animal. You got to take somebody's word for it until you have a reason not to, I guess. That's just kind of the way I look at it.
I think that there is obviously I think in things like pits, luckily there is a barricade to entry as far as like you got to be a pretty decent snake person to handle or to just tolerate a lot of the pit species, because I mean, to be honest, they are not unlike other snakes. I mean, they will defend posture, they will huff, they'll puff, they will shit all over the place.
I wish I could share the passion that
I think
have for them.
I think it keeps like fly-by-nighters out of it. People who are really passionate work with things that you're working with.
Yeah, and that's I've always just worked what I love. The animals I work with are the animals I love, and I don't have hog nose. I like hog nose, but I don't. Oh, they're a big money seller, so it's not me. I just work with what I want to work with, and I know hog nose are a hot thing right now. Actually, bull snakes are probably one of the hottest things, if not the hottest snake right now, as far as popularity and people wanting the demand for them. I kind of got sidetracked.
That's
Now,
okay.
talking about the popularity of everything, do you feel now that I feel that ball pythons are kind of settling down from where they were red hot for like the last 10
They're
years.
still red hot. What are you talking
But
about?
I feel like it's kind of settling down. I feel like people are getting into more diverse species. Do you see an uptick in obviously things like bulls and the different pits among like the general population?
Bull snakes are crazy right now. I produced probably 400 babies. I could have probably sold 2,000 babies this year. It's just there's not enough right now, and it's just I don't know why that is. Um, I think other countries, China and Korea, and some of these other, are really taking interest in them too. The gopher snakes are not as popular. They never have been, but they're still. San Diego gopher snakes are really popular. I'm not sure why the bull snakes. Maybe it's just their size. Um, but you said something I wanted to just talk about for a second was not all pits are aggressive. Not, I mean, I have probably 2% of my collection are little buggers as adults. I have.
I
Can
guess
you take
I don't
hours?
have.
No. Can you take hours?
I don't have a
Can you
good
take
sample
ours?
size because I just have 3
Yeah.
Louisiana pines who are psychos.
100% all psychos all of the time. Like it's not like just when they haven't eaten or just when we bother them. No. 100% all the time, all three of them.
Yeah.
So
Well, I know certain bloodlines are. My Kingsville red bull snakes they're boogers. I don't like to even handle them. But then I have some 6-foot bull snakes that are puppy dogs, and they don't hiss. They don't. They're just gentle giants, and they're just awesome. Most of my gopher snakes, most of my San Diegos are just like a corn snake, just cruise in your hands, won't even hiss or nothing. I think, yeah, it's kind of a bad rap on their part. I mean, because they can be pissy and annoying like that, but most of them aren't. And if they are, they usually grow out of it. So,
Or if someone was looking, I mean, for an entryway into pits, would you say that something like San Diego would be the best start for them?
a San Diego or a Sonoran, Sonorans they're my favorite snake. I just think their personalities they're awesome. Most of them are pretty docile. Um, they just eat. They're just they're easy to handle. So plus, um, one thing I love about pits is I don't get musked. I don't get pooped on or musked.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, but
I feel like we're living in different worlds.
yeah, I've had one Louisiana pine in my day, but and I'll tell you what, I did a lot of Cal Kings this year and Mexican blacks, and it's been a long time since I've done a lot of numbers in those. And I'll tell you what, I love the sexing baby snakes, sucks. But gopher snakes and bull snakes, man, they don't musk, they don't poop on you. And those dang king snakes, man, they poop everywhere. It's slimy and yeah. they bite. They bite a lot more too. I think, but it's just funny that
That's
they're
so funny.
different. they are way different.
Speaking of popularity, have you seen all the craziness popularity of MBKs?
Yeah, I've been part of that a little bit. um, I think I hatched out close to 60 this year.
Whoa. Okay.
And I sold half of them already, but it blows my mind what
Crazy.
Well, we'll have
'cause
to
I-
refer people. People ask us all the time, like, where can I get them from? And we'll have to.
yeah, it cracks me up because in 2002 I was selling those in San Diego at the San Diego show for $20.
Oh my God, that's insane.
And now they're like $150 or whatever. I don't.
We saw one on Facebook the other day. Someone was trying to sell one for what,
A
800?
female, yeah, for $800.
$800.
Wow.
So I heard it's a similar story like you were saying with the bulls. I heard that Asia's actually buying up all the black snakes. So I guess that's a reason why we're in such short supply over
Why
here.
do you think the popularity is so big?
I do think that it is from China, Asia countries that. Sorry, my dog's trying to get in here. Let him in real quick. I do think that China and some of those Asian countries do like black snakes, and they really like white snakes too. They like black and white, and that's the only thing I could think of. But I have a couple customers that are from China, and they're not really happy with how these prices are going. But they still will buy them. They're still buying them like crazy. So I don't know.
Now, do you mind me asking how something like brokering to a customer in China works, or how to get it through customs, or what you do in order to ship to someone internationally?
For me, it's really simple because they'll buy bulk, but they have brokers. They have third-party people that do all that paperwork. I just get them to California or Florida, wherever they're going to go out of, whatever state, and then I'm done. They do all they do all the hard work, and I'm sure they get paid pretty well for it. But yeah, I know it is, and I know it is a hard thing to get that license and to get a license, exportation license, and then have to do all the paperwork. I know it's a pain in the butt. My friend did it, and he just said he didn't want to do it the next year. So
yeah, I guess there's always someone willing to do stuff like that if there's enough demand. But because you get, I don't know, when you post a bunch of colubrid stuffs, like eventually someone on Facebook will message you in like broken English trying to get you to send them all your snakes to China or whatever. But I never thought that there was any possibility of me being able to do it. So I never really take it up,
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Maybe it's easier. I don't know. I feel like we got to wait till our collection's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, like we don't have enough to wholesale. So I guess let's talk about that because it seems like you're throwing numbers around.
When did you start
that are semi
or internationally?
I want to know how big his collection was.
Okay, both those questions.
What did you want to know first?
When did you start shipping internationally or shipping in bulk like that? And what are your current numbers, I guess?
About 4 years ago, I started shipping these. It's funny because I get new Chinese guys all the time, left and right, bull snakes, and it's just like there's not enough. I have a customer that I deal with, and he's just, I mean, I don't have, you just can't. One guy will take everything. So it's like, yeah, I think I probably ship 300 bull snakes to China a year. Go there, I guess.
Wow.
And how many are you producing?
I produce at least 400 bull snakes this year.
Holy whoa!
And what's your colony like adult wise? And then how many babies altogether do you produce in a year?
So this year I had 40 females, bull snakes that were breedable. Of course, you always have one that won't. There's always a couple that don't go, and then there's a couple bad clutches. So I mean, it's never, it's never perfect. But yeah, I would, like I said, I could probably produce 2,000 bull snakes and sell every one to China. But
yeah, they take it.
Who has that kind of space? I don't. So.
And now that we've gone into this stuff, is this your full-time job or is this just kind of your side business?
So this is my side business hobby. I work full-time. And
wait. Didn't you just say you produced like 200 and some, and this is your side?
No, 400.
400 and some, and this is your side business?
I produced the 1,100 snakes this year. I am like.
Do you sleep?
Not very much. Like I'm exhausted right now, but I'm really. I've had a lot of customers, and people kind of probably. They haven't said anything to me, but I know they're probably irritated, and I've turned a lot of people away, and I'm over my head. I'm overwhelmed this last month, and it's almost to where I can. In a couple of weeks, things will be better. But it's really, I have never had a challenge like this until this year because I did a third more than I've ever done more babies than I've ever done, and it's just proven to be really hard. Space is one thing, but it's hard to market animals when you gotta take care of animals too, and taking care of them comes first. So.
Mm-hmm.
So when we both complain about the amount of babies we have, we're just gonna say Jason's name because holy crap.
Do you enlist any help during this time, especially peak baby season?
I have my son. He'll help me a little bit and stuff with cleaning occasionally if I can talk him into it. I pretty much do most of it myself because I like things done myself, done certain ways. But yeah, it's almost to the point where I need help. I do have a partner on a hand. I got a couple friends that I do projects with, and one in particular, we've been doing a little bit more and more. So he helps out in little ways like that, especially with food. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about. I feel like it would take 3 days alone to like feed them all, and then go back and check to make sure they ate.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at today. Got to make sure everybody ate today. So.
Wow.
So that's crazy. So what do you do? Are you one of those guys to where you have so many animals? I mean, do you mess with problem feeders? Do king snakes eat when there's private or problem feeders, or how do you deal with things like that? Like those are the things that really eat up some time.
Yeah. So this year I did more king snakes and stuff than ever. Most pits, they're going to eat. You don't have a lot of problem feeders, and usually they're quick fixes like live. So as far as getting stubborn feeders to eat, I kind of pride myself in having good techniques and kind of unorthodox techniques. I'll do some things that will trip people out a little bit.
Elaborate, please.
But gray bands this year, I'm gonna really market my gray bands. I'm gonna take instead of just getting them out the door, I'm kind of going the opposite. I'm moving a lot of pits out the door, and then I'm gonna take my time and get a lot of these gray bands and theri eating properly instead of just wholesale them out. So yeah, it's gonna take some work. And I see this, a lot of newbies freak out. Like I've always had gray bands, but they start, how long's it been since it's, okay, this gray band's 6 weeks old. It hasn't ate yet. Well, and you try to sell it, and they're like, this thing's gonna die. No, this thing's fine. It's got a lot of body weight. The problem is, I think a lot of people try to feed. Oh, it just shed, so I got to feed it the next day. Well, they're still living off. They're still living off of egg yolk. They're gonna live off egg yolk for a while. But people start trying to push food at them. I found it really good with thyroid. Let them starve for a little while. Let them get hungry, get good and hungry. Wait 6 weeks to even try. And I'll tell you what, I started doing that, and right out of the gate, I'll get 60% of my gray bands or my thyroid to eat the first try. Because I'm not pushing food on them so immediately. Let them get hungry. And if you always got a pinky in there kicking around, then they get used to seeing that thing. And so I like to get them really hungry, but that doesn't always work. So then I'll go into my little bag of tricks, and a lot of them are lizard scenting. I like to try. I feed frozen thawed to most of my stuff, so I'll try a frozen thawed. Then I'll try a live. Then I usually go to washing pinkies, because gray bands, a lot of these little king snakes are nocturnal. They go off of smell more than sight, and so you changing their smell is going to get their interest. It's not a movement thing. One of the tricks that works really good is the old laundry detergent, the box stuff that's grainy, not the liquid stuff.
Heard that one.
You know, the laundry stuff.
The little balls.
Yeah. So wash a pinky with that, scrub them, and it might abrase them a little bit because it's so grainy. But that works great tricks, and then rinse them really well. That really works. Changing the smell of their food that's what's going to get them to eat. And that laundry detergent will work really well. Even regular soaps, bar soaps, or dispenser soaps. I'll do weird things like, this is what I was getting to, like unorthodox. I'll wash a pinky, and I'll take them out in the front yard and dust them with some dirt out of the garden. And you won't believe how often that works.
What?
Minerals.
It's so weird making it smell like something it's not. It's weird.
The smell will change it. It'll change their behavior.
I guess.
See, and I usually use Dawn dish soap. And also I've heard of people boiling them, and I've done that. And I feel like boiling them is just kind of changing the scent as well, because it smells like ramen noodles, right?
No, do not equate those two things. I love ramen noodles, and I do not love the smell of boiled pinkies. Please don't put that.
But they don't smell like pinkies anymore.
Terrible, but yeah,
it smells interesting. Yeah,
but it's weird that we're trying to make it not smell like the thing that they are used to.
Well, maybe
eating.
those urate, like they're not used to animals that are filled with urates, because when they die, they go to the bathroom and they're all like very, very stinky. I feel.
Why. But it's like they're not used to laundry detergent or dish soap in the wild, but for some reason that works. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me why stuff like that works.
But when you have to resort to lizards, what's your go-to for scenting?
I'll just get usually side blotch lizards or something.
And are those native to Utah?
Yeah, just whatever's native here, like any of these spinies, all these desert lizards, from Texas to, well, I know anoles even work, but I usually just use the desert lizards because they're desert snakes for the most part. I usually will keep the lizards for a couple weeks, and then just live scent off of there. But then after after I did this. This is funny because this worked about 5 months ago. I'll keep those lizards in some dirt and stuff, and the lizard droppings. After those lizards are gone, I'll keep that dirt and I'll keep it in a deli cup. And I have some dirt with some lizard droppings in it, and it's like 6 years old. And I for whatever reason I said, "What the heck? I'll try it," and it worked the other day. It still worked after 6 years. It was funny.
You're right. These are a little unorthodox.
These are things that I legit, because we ask a lot of people this stuff, especially, we had gray band people in the past, and these are new.
Yeah, I thought we heard it all, but okay.
My friend had a good one too. He a good trick. He would keep the snake without water, the baby snake without water for a week or more, and then he'd put a pinky in the cage with it and put a couple drops of water on it, so it'd start drinking the water off of it, and then hey, this tastes kind of good, and then it'd eat the pinky. So there's a few. There's another one too.
Well, I am hand assist feeding mouse tails to approximately 18 babies right now. So
we're over that.
I need all the help I can get. So I will definitely be trying some of those.
Yeah, try that laundry detergent one. I don't know why that works so well. It does. It's that, for whatever reason, that kind of soap.
Something in the chemicals in it. Yeah,
who cares?
Yeah, my friend taught me that one, so I can't claim that one, but
whatever works. I mean,
yeah.
Didn't you say like our one, just the fire, has like no will to live at this point?
He doesn't want to be assist fed. He'll puke up anything. He doesn't like to swallow things. But he's cool looking, so I got to keep on trying.
No, we want to keep him alive.
He looks like dog shit now, though. He's starting to go downhill, but hopefully. But that's the one that won't even be assist fed. It's like you're a real pain. But how many? I know you have some other colubrids kicking around. So what else do you have besides Theori, gray bands, and obviously all the pits?
I want to get into some of these Asian rats. I don't have any. But where I'm at right now, because I rent a little space at a warehouse, it's a little too hot for them. I don't think they would do well in the summertime. But I do have some gray rats. I have some Everglade rats. I got some Plebelins, Cinnalolans, Cal Kings, of course. Yeah.
Do you happen to have? Do you have the white oak gray rats?
I have. I got them from Tony D. They're lemon rats.
Oh, I've seen those. Those are awesome.
I just seen those, and I had to have those when I seen those a couple of years ago.
He also has the Hypo Baird's rat.
Those are awesome. I've had those in the past, and those are cool.
So why haven't you gotten into, why don't you have things like Baird's rats or Baja rats, and then also like the Western greens and stuff like that? All that, I feel like that would be something you'd be into.
So like when you're out field herping, that's like #1 target stuff. But those green rats, they're a little bit. They can be problematic a little bit. You might have to, if you don't feel comfortable hitting your animal with flagell once in a while. That kind of just stuff naturally happens. I've never had Baja rats, so I've heard they're even harder than greens.
Wait, do they just have low immune systems, or what's the deal?
I'm not exactly sure. I don't know exactly why. I mean, I do like all that stuff. It's just hard to have everything. I tried. I mean, I specialize in the gophers and bulls, so, and I just, with all the color morphs and stuff, it's just like, it's hard. It's hard to have everything.
Yeah. I mean, I always try to find out why things that are really cool, like Western green rat snakes or whatever, I try to find out why a lot of people aren't working with them. And there's usually a reason like that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because I've been trying to get someone on the show to talk about those, but really there's not many.
Yeah, and just from my understanding is, if you're going to keep green rats, you better be good at doing some meds on them, because most of those guys tell me that you're going to have to hit them up with some flagell or something at least once a year for whatever reason. I don't know why those reasons, and that's just what I've heard secondhand.
So you think it's prone to things like respiratories?
It seemed more like bacterial stuff, digestive problems. They'll start pooping funny, just out of the blue. So, but
well, that turns me off of that, huh?
Yeah. But that happens. I have when you have a large collection, you gotta learn how to treat your animals. You basically become a hot vet by hobby. You gotta know how to. It just happens. I mean, even if you're clean rodents, I don't know why. It just happens. I'll get a sick snake here and there, and you just got to know how to treat them.
Yeah. So someone with a big collection, I mean, what do you do to stop the spread of sickness? Because obviously if you have 100 people in a room, someone's going to catch the flu at some point or something like that. The same thing with snakes. How do you kind of nip that before it spreads to a bunch of other snakes?
So if I have something that's like, and I have one now, and it's when I go clean cages, it's going to be the last snake I clean, the last cage I clean. That's kind of how I go about it. I'll treat them, and then I'll kind of isolate them, and then make sure that I'm not handling stuff after I handle those snakes. So.
Now, do you have things like, I don't know how prone some of the pits are to this, but I mean, some reproductive issues in females, whether it be egg binding or like, what do you call that? Like prolapsed oviducts or anything like that?
I'll get an egg binding a couple a year usually, just because it's my collection's all on the larger side. I started. I'll do. Gosh, now I'm drawing a blank on that name. But anyways, I'll suck the yolk out of the egg, the binding egg.
So you do that. You go through the cloaca.
The word I was looking for.
With a syringe, and you suck out the fluid out of the egg.
Yeah, it's not a fun thing to do by any means, but it's either that or an animal dying.
Right.
Yeah, that's something that I've heard of people doing, but luckily, I guess I've never had to do it. Although I've had the whole oviduct comes out with the eggs, so that's a whole nother thing. But
yeah, I haven't had that luckily. So, but yeah, I'll get an egg binding once or twice a year. It seems like it'll happen.
I mean, in the percentage of all the ones you have, that's like nothing.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never fun, but it's kind of part of the hobby, and I don't know what there's a lot of guessing, I guess. I don't know if there's a lot of research done on why that happens, but it just happens. I don't know why.
I feel like we like to try to find causes of things, and there's some weird, I wish I could think of one, like weird things in the hobby that we think don't handle something 24 hours after feeding, or don't do this, don't do that are very kind of aren't that important. Once you get obviously a collection so large, there's times where you need to take pictures of babies right after they ate or something like that, because just like you got to take pictures of 50 babies, you're not going to wait 48 hours. You're going to do it when you have the time to do so. And So I feel like there's a lot of silly things that we feel like matter, but maybe don't so much. Do you feel like I have this thing about not making my snakes fat, and I feel like that helps me like not have issues as far as reproduction? But do you have any weird hunches like that?
Yeah, I kind of, I believe kind of that thing. You don't see fat snakes in the wild. You don't see obese snakes in the wild. They're usually pretty healthy or maybe sick or something. But yeah, I like to keep a natural body weight on a snake. I don't push them. I don't power feed. Uh, I like to keep my snakes. I don't know what everybody does. My ideal temperature for a room is 77, 78. I know a lot of people like 82. Yeah, there's little things, I guess.
Do you keep ambient, or are you keeping that ambient 78 with a hotspot, or is that just your straight up ambient?
So the way I'm set up now is I'm on ambient in the summer. I have an air conditioner because it gets hot, but it's on a timer. My room will fluctuate a good 10 degrees in a day. I mean, 85's hot, but I'll go from 75 to 85 in a day. I don't. I will keep my snakes with on their heat tape. I'll put heat tape on in the spring and maybe in the fall when the temperatures are cooler and I'm not running air. And so, yeah, there's some days you'll walk in this early spring and you'll walk in that room and it's 70 degrees. But then they got their hot spot, so they're fine. And it's worked great. Hotter temperatures, I get regurges if it gets too hot. And for that reason, I don't use an incubator either. And there's one of those rumors. Do not let your eggs fluctuate 2 degrees within an hour, or else they're dead. Yeah, my eggs fluctuate temperatures, but I keep them at the room temperature. I do keep them in a cooler so that it's not the fluctuation of temperature is more gradual. But yeah, I don't use an incubator per se.
And then fluctuations, I guess another thing would be brumations. So do you allow subtle fluctuations there, or are you it better be 50 degrees or something?
Oh, my room fluctuates. He'll go he'll go from 50 degrees to 65 in the winter.
Now, are you at like elevation in Utah so you get really cool winters?
Yeah, it's like our the valley's at 4,200 feet, and so when you're at least here in Utah, and we don't have a lot of humidity either, so it's like when the sun goes down, it cools off. It cools off fast. It's not like back east or Texas where the sun goes down and it will slowly cool down. It drops pretty quick. So especially in the winter. Um, so yeah, I'm fighting temperatures from both directions depending on what time of year it is.
Yeah, I feel like everyone has a little bit of that. But we went backwards. What I should have done is brumation and then that, because now I want to ask you, as far as spring, when you start ramping them up to breed, I mean, how much food are you hitting them with?
Sorry, hang on. I'm gonna close this door.
No, you're good.
Can you say that question one more time?
Yeah. So when you get them out of brumation and spring starts and you're trying to prep your females, how much food are you hitting them with?
I will hit the females very strong once a week. Not like this snake's getting 2 giant rats or whatever, but they'll get a nice healthy meal once a week.
But a big, nice adult female bull, will she take down like a large rat or something like a medium rat?
Medium to large, yeah.
So I mean that's a hardy, because I would do it more often for my corn snakes, but I usually feed smaller meals. So I guess that makes sense.
It just depends. If I have large prey items or if I don't, then it just kind of depends on the situation. But
I'm sure also you're dealing with much different supply issues and cost issues when it comes to feeding.
yeah, luckily one of my partner and I have a friend that's a partner on. We're partners on quite a few snakes, and his job he breeds rodents. So I got a connection, and so he he will help out quite a bit with food, and I still buy rodents, and it's still a large bill, but he helps out that way quite a bit. Yeah, that's one of that is a big challenge because rodent supplies are it's a high demand. I mean, there's a lot of times where you can't get rodents. I'm sure for many.
Yeah. If there's one thing there's not a surplus of in this industry, and like, I don't know if people realize how important that is as far as, I mean, we need people who are breeding rodents, and there's never there's never surplus amounts of rodents or anything like that, or there's never shortage of snake breeders who would trade you snakes for rodents if you breed rodents. Like, that's probably a good opportunity for someone who's starting out. And rodents are obviously much cheaper than buying that $2,500 ball python in order to make you relevant there. I mean, so you could start a rat colony and trade a bunch of rats for those expensive ball pythons and probably make out like a bandit in comparison to dropping cash on snakes.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that can go well for both sides of it. Both parties.
As long as you don't mind ammonia and cleaning up after rodents, I guess.
I used to breed my own rodents, and I haven't for like 12, 13 years. I used to have 100 breeder rats and 500 breeder mice, and it was awesome because my snakes were perfectly fed at all times. But I'll tell you what, I just didn't have a lot of free time. That was a lot more work than the snakes were. So
Yeah.
I kind of I enjoy my freedom a little bit more. I mean, I'm still busy, but it could be worse.
Now, was there ever a point where you wanted to go full time, or like, do you still kind of dream to go full time?
Well, it's funny that you say that. I mean, I do. I would love to. I the reality of it, who knows how long this market's going to last? I mean, the government could shut us down tomorrow, I guess. But um, I really do want to do this full time, and I had to have a talk. My boss called me because I've been missing a lot of times because it's been so chaotic, and he did call me last week and said, "What is your deal? You need to put in some hours." And I'm like, "Well, what about full time? What if I went part time and well, we'll take your benefits away because we can't, blah blah blah." So I mean, I'd love to do snakes full time, but I don't know how people do it. I mean, I guess I guess if you went big time, I've ramped up I have ramped up my collection quite a bit because the demand is so high right now, and it's like, well, you might as well ride it out if you're doing it. And I'm paying rent for a place, and I'm paying food, and so I have ramped it up. But yeah, I mean, ideally, I kind of wanted to go part time doing what I do, and then kind of balance it out that way. But yeah, I just the whole thing of how long this hobby and snake demand is going to last, that kind of worries me.
Well, I'd say you're in a better place than, say, a retic breeder right now or something.
Yeah, I mean, but 2 years from now, it could just tank. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows, I guess. But yeah, so that's kind of what makes me nervous. I mean, things are great now, but
I mean, yeah, we can see there are certain things like ball python breeders who had 10 to 15 amazing years, and now you're seeing them slowly fade into the ether somewhere. And like,
Yeah.
if you don't pivot with what the market is
Is
interested in, especially with someone like I like a certain thing, you like a certain thing, and then it's like all of a sudden you can't sell bull snakes and gopher snakes, so now the new hot thing is crested geckos. Are you willing to now be the crested gecko guy? You know, so I could understand where you're coming from with the market. Oh, did he mute himself?
Sorry, I had a phone call came in. Something happened.
Oh, you're good.
I don't. That's not me. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna work with what I like to do, and that's what I'm always gonna do. I'm not gonna be like I can see it with the ball python people. That a lot of them turn to hognose now. Now they're hognose guys, and I like hognose and I like ball pythons. I'm not gonna work with those animals because it's not my passion. I just kind of do what I want to do, what I like to do. So, and that's, I mean, it's kind of cool because right now it's working out really great for me. But it's not about it. You know, I've been doing this since the mid early '90s, and it's still a demand. And I've just been doing what I want to do, so I'm not gonna change for that. I mean, I'd like to do some lizards and some frogs and stuff, but man, those lizards and frogs are a lot more time consuming, and I'm already stretched, so I don't see that happening. But if I did, it would be because I like those animals. It's not because it's a. I mean, even the lizards I like. I mean, it's a null. I like a null lizards, and they're $3.
Hey, we could use some of those.
Yeah, you know. So
you just got to produce 100,000 of them for $3 a piece.
Yeah, I'd rather just check them out in the wild. You know, that was great in Peru. Got to check out some new ones. So, but yeah. I just do what I like to do. That's kind of what I've been doing. So
absolutely. So I want to thank you so much for taking your time out and being on the show. And do we have to ask the question?
Yeah. He's gonna be mad at us if we don't.
Everyone's gonna be mad at us if we don't ask the last question, which apparently is now our last question, which has zero things to do with reptiles. So don't be worried about it.
One of our friends made us start asking this, and now it's our thing.
What is your favorite pizza topping?
Pizza topping? Wow, and pizza is my favorite food, and I don't really get to eat it very often, but I'm just gonna roll with right now because it sounds so good. Pepperoni.
Straight pepperoni.
Thank you.
I think that's a great way to go.
All right, yeah, we can all be happy with that.
Wait, but now I gotta ask, why don't you get to eat pizza very often?
Oh, I'm just on some little health kick. Some foods aren't healthy for you. It's really not good for you. It's got like, I don't know. There's not a lot of nutritional value. They call it empty carbs. So
there's some calcium in that cheese.
I'm lactose intolerant.
Pizza is my favorite food, and I don't get to have it so very often. But once a week, I'll pig out on something like that. But not too often.
Understand. We shouldn't, but it's just so good. Who doesn't love pizza?
Yeah. Oh, it's delicious.
So, if there's anyone who wants to get in touch with you, how could they do so?
Facebook's probably the most convenient. Or I don't have my website anymore. Facebook's kind of made that irrelevant a little bit. So yeah, Facebook or email.
So Jason Nelson's your Facebook and Envy Reptiles, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect.
Easy enough. Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on and everything.
Yeah, thank you. I had a good time.
Good luck with, over 1,000 babies. That just blows my mind. But
Yep, they're finding homes as we speak. So
Well, that's good. And to everyone who's listening, if you want to reach out to us or talk to us, obviously Port City Pythons on Facebook, Instagram, our website, portcitypythons.com.
PortCityBallPythons.com.
Stop.
Ball pythons. Ball pythons.
Stop. And now you messed me up. Theportcitypythons
At
at gmail.com. If you want to email us.
I don't think anyone's ever emailed us, so it'd be cool
We
if someone just
have.
emailed us. Oh yeah,
We
but not really from the show.
No, I mean, but it's not necessary when you can message
When
us
you can just
on
message us on
Facebook
Instagram or Facebook.
or like even your numbers somewhere and people.
I prefer
text you.
Instagram.
Okay,
That'd be
there you
excellent.
go. This is a great outro.
Oh, sorry. I
Thank
fucked
you
up.
guys for listening. Buy our snakes. And
Do whatever
thanks,
you want.
Jason, again. Bye, everybody.
Later, guys.
Thank you.
Mhm.